It's 4th of February 2020, and the barely British corporation still puts out articles like this. Apparently, without diversity, gaming will not be able to survive. I suggest that they take their findings to Japan. They show them to Sony, they show them to Nintendo, because they're corporations that I really like. And I do want them to survive. So, chop chop, people at the BBC, come on, rush to Japan and tell them they need a little bit of diversity. Maybe go to China and tell them, oh my god, look what we found. Your corporations are going to die unless you have diversity. You know what's really funny? These articles are actually made for the masses, for the common denominator, which is moron. It's really interesting that if I ever see a person that genuinely believes the spirit and the essence of this article, I already consider them to be mentally retarded, and thus I start behaving towards them like I would behave towards a child. You know, limit the communication to a bare minimum, use baby words, it's like, oh, this is so nice, and then just get the hell out of there. So, what do I mean by this? The idea that the article is pushing is that gaming companies must be racist or sexist or whatever. Now, they will never show you a case where a very talented person wanted to get a job and the gaming company told you, we're sorry, we do not hire black people. You know, because if they would do that, then I would be like, yeah, okay, no, the company is racist. No, what they do is they wait for a company to form. And basically anyone can form a company. You can form a company, right? If you have a couple of friends that are game developers, well, you can form a company. And heaven forbid you have success. Because the moment you have success, you're going to see an army of journalists going into your company with 23andMe test kits, asking your game developers to take down their pants so they can check their willies. And then they start doing the percentages. And unless your company seems to have the exact same percentages of race that the British country has and of gender that the British country has, then you're either racist or sexist. And what this means is that you now need to hire a diversity officer, a commissar. And the thing is, for years, companies have just poured money into these parasites, these commissars, basically, that do absolutely nothing to improve the quality of the product, but they leech money from the company. Doesn't seem that they actually increase diversity because, way and behold, it's 2020 and gaming still has a diversity problem. Like for years, gaming companies have poured money into this. Doesn't seem to have worked. Now, let's talk a little bit what goes on under the table. I will tell you what I know from the people that actually work in the industry, the AAA developers that I know from Ubisoft and from Blizzard and all these other places. It's very interesting because take Blizzard, for instance. In the United States, yes, they're very high on diversity. They have diversity offices and whatnot, and they do the statistic, and it's like, oh, this year we hired 1% more women than last year. Ah! You know, they're not like, holy shit, we're not selling games. Oh my god, our stocks are dropping. Oh, we're fighting game development. No, that's not what the primary reason of concerns. No, the primary reason of concerns is like, we hired 1% more women. Ah! You know, it's a Romanian expression, the house is burning and the old woman is combing her hair. But anyway, right, so diversity. It doesn't happen in China, right? Their Chinese offices do not have diversity officers. It doesn't happen anywhere else, only in white countries. So that's one of the things that is interesting. The second thing that I find very interesting is that it's a reason to fire people. Because you'll often see game developers being laid off in order to make room for diversity. And the person that's diverse and gets hired will either get a lower wage for the same job or they will get more responsibility for the same job. So all of this is actually sponsored by the higher ups, the people in the suits. They're the ones that are in on this. They want diversity in their company, so they have a reason to fire people. Now, let me give you another thing which is absolutely horrible. If you genuinely care about oppression and you genuinely care about people marginalized, do you know what is the one thing corporations do not want you to talk about? And they get really livid if you would ever bring it up. The type of discrimination that they do not want you to talk about is ageism. Like, they discriminate towards older people. And you'll see this, that it happens quite often. It's like you'll have an old game developer who has been in the company for 10 years. And he is quite talented because he has worked with the company. However, it kind of costs a lot to keep him around. Because for the last 10 years, he kept negotiating his salary, he kept asking for more money, he kept getting raises, he kept getting bonuses. And now the company can choose, why not hire a younger person, which they would pay less, maybe like 50% less. The young person is going to put in all those extra hours because he wants to prove himself. He knows he doesn't belong there. You know, like he already feels like, oh my God, I just got hired by Blizzard. The dream of my life. And then it's not going to be as good as the old developer. He might be like 20% less skilled than the old developer, but the old developer gets laid off and the young person gets hired, right? Now, the thing with ageism is it's really worse in the tech industry. It's really worse in this type of game development industry. And everyone gets old, all right? You might be young now, but you will get old. You think they won't treat you like that? They will. They absolutely will. So this is why they don't want to talk about ageism. Because instead of like having all these diversity programs where it's like, oh, look, we have more women, why not have a program that's like, oh, we have more old people? Because old people cost money. Old people come with the experience. Old people ask for more. And that's why you will not see the Barely British Corporation talk about ageism in the corporate industry. Because, oh my God, you know, like for a while, I genuinely thought that this is an anti-corporate mentality. You know, what people like to call cultural Marxism. I genuinely thought it's like taking it against capitalism and against corporations. But the more you look into it and the more you talk about people who work in the corporate environment, it's not. It's controlled opposition. It makes people think that they are taking it against the corporation. But in reality, it benefits the corporation. It benefits the corporation to say, oh yeah, we're now more diverse and we're hiring people for half the wage compared to the people we fired. It benefits the company to have a reason why they laid off that old game developer because, you know, they have to make room for diversity. And it benefits them. The only people that don't get to benefit is the consumer. Because if you look at the market, all of the gaming companies in the West are falling. The Blizzard had to fire a lot of people. EA, massive stock drop. Ubisoft, massive stock drop. Blizzard, massive stock drop. Like they're actually going into a recession. And instead of talking about it and addressing the actual issue or trying to put out better products, they don't care. They constantly talk about this diversity nonsense. And I'll tell you why. Because a company like Blizzard can choose to invest more money into Diablo 4 or just make a new StarCraft-themed pinball game and sell it to China. Which one do you think is actually more profitable? They don't care. At the end of the day, they don't even look at people as human beings. They look at people like resources, like bodies. Like it's quite horrible if you find out some of the stories. So, you know, all of this diversity is just some bullshit to keep people focused away from the actual issue. To talk about the oppression that game developers have to face whenever they put into work overtime. So instead of, you know, like talking about just how bad companies are, the Jeff Bezoses of the world, they focus on, oh yeah, they're not diverse enough. Oh, we need to work on more diversity and blah, blah, blah. So that, I guess minorities should face a little bit of the oppression that the average game developer faces today. So that's what it's about. It's a smokescreen. It's like, let's look here. You know, it's like a magician going on a stage. It's like, look here, look here, look here. Then just don't look over there, because that's where the real oppression and the bad business practices are. And they milk the consumer as much as they can. They fire the talent as much as they can. And the only reason they are still up and running is because of inertia. It's the same when socialism takes over a country. It's still going to go well for a while because of the economic inertia. But give it 5 or 6 more years, I doubt we will see the companies that are on the market right now in the same form. I would be really surprised and shocked if that would be the case. They do have a lot of money and a lot of resources, so they can still invest. But unless they're going to do a 180 and just change their thinking, it's not going to work. Because it takes the focus away from what the company should be. The company should be about making money and putting out a good product. Japanese companies have figured it out. It seems that Capcom actually managed to do a 180 with the last Resident Evil. There are Japanese companies pulling out Final Fantasy, which is critically acclaimed. When's the last time a Western gaming company actually put on a good game that was critically acclaimed? I think the last one might have been God of War. Right? So that's a little bit concerning, isn't it? Considering it's been over a year now. Because believe it or not, I do not want these companies to die. I do not want them to blizzard themselves to death. And I am not a game developer, so I don't care if they push this diversity and all of the social justice bullshit if it wouldn't reflect into their games. Like, almost every single game that I play nowadays has to be about some sort of oppression. Like, someone is oppressed. And I'm like, you know what? Like, fine, get oppressed. Just get oppressed. I don't care. I just want some entertainment. Like, they're making a new game from Ubisoft, Watch Dogs Brexit. The Brexit edition. Why can't I play like the guy that does the oppression? Why can't I play like the guy with the mask, the soldier, the goon that stomps on people's face? I think that would be fun. It would be a breath of fresh air because for once it would be something different. You know, like they're afraid of making different things. I watched the last E3. Copy paste. Every single game was either a sequel, a prequel, or a spin-off, and nothing original. Nothing new. And people are getting sick and tired. Oh, and they're removing the tits as well. It's like, who plays video games the most? Teenagers. What do teenagers like? Tits and violence. Okay, let's remove the tits. Why would you do that? Why? Like, if you want to make money, why would you do that? Let me know what you think, and I'll see you guys in the comment section.